In the top left-hand side for Root Gaming, it is SKillous.
And in the bottom right side, we are looking at the main base of our Polish Terran player, previously known as Soul, now known as Spirit.
Funny name change there. But yeah, SKillous, in my opinion, one of the more fun Protoss players to watch in Europe, just because he wants to play that high pace type Protoss, whereas a lot of Protoss are kind of like okay sitting back and getting the tech and getting like somewhat of a more death volley type army, even if that means, you know, splitting the death ball in two and defending a lot of the time. SKillous is more proactive, oftentimes, like with Blink Stalkers. He likes being out on the map, he likes chaotic situations, and he likes to outpace his opponents, kind of like most Terrans like to do.
A very scrappy Protoss. If he ever has the choice between going for a flawless defense or being okay with the fact that he's going to lose a couple probes, but at the same time kill SCVs on the other side of the map, he will go for the second option. These are the kind of games that he likes to play. Anything that's a bit offbeat, off-tempo, but allows him to be aggressive is something that he excels at. And he gets the kill on the SCV very quickly. That's actually lovely for him.
Yeah, very, very well done. Anticipating there that the SCV might do this, because he had the probe ready a little bit earlier than maybe Soul or Spirit was hoping. So on the other side, he's also going to get a pretty good scout here as up to what's going on. He has to be a little bit careful and anticipate that there could be a Reaper, but it's just a Marine to start.
But just scouting that there is a Marine and there is a command center going down is a good scout in and by itself. So we'll take the game from here. This is a good map to go for Stargate, but of course the Twilight Council seems to be the most popular tech of choice for most Protoss players here on Romanticide. And let's see if SKillous decides to go for that. At first we're going to open up with an Adept and he's going to Chrono Boost it out. So he may try to get lucky on the other side and hoping that Spirit won't open up with a bunker.
Yeah, it's a longer distance, and Spirit knows that he's been scouted, so I imagine he will drop the bunker timely, but he's running out of time to do exactly just that, right? Like, there it goes. Okay, perfect timing there for Spirit. I think that should barely be done in time.
It's a 2 barracks opening so far for our Polish Terran player, which I'm a little bit surprised by. We see 3 racks or 1 barracks into factory, but he's going for a 2 racks opening. 2-1-1 against Protoss. Oh, 2 barracks triple CC even. All right, welcome. Welcome, Spirit. Yeah. Let's make it a long one.
Yeah, that's very interesting, especially against SKillous, though, because SKillous could get a little bit aggressive. He has the Twilight Council on the way as well. So if we see Blink and with the row already being dropped, this could still get pretty dangerous for Spirit.
Yeah, I think if SKillous just goes pedal to the metal, if this was spotting, I'd be like, I actually think that the Terran is kind of dead here, because obviously with this opening, your factory is going to be delayed, and a late factory means that you're going to have very few to no tanks to deal with the initial wave of Stalkers. SKillous, we don't know yet. There is a chance that he just makes a couple Stalkers and then tries to go up to 3 bases himself. As the good news for Spirit is that he is going to have quick access to Stim, but just Stim Marines alone against Blink Stalkers is not good enough.
Yeah, he's been on 1 gas for a very long time as well, so his tech progression is going to be pretty slow to those medevacs, to anything like tanks. Even Marauders are going to be kind of costly here for Spirit. He's really lacking that gas. Now taking a 2nd gas finally, as well as an eBay in the back. So I'm curious, maybe if he's as greedy as to start an upgrade, that would be also ridiculous. Is this eBay this early? Is it for a turret, or do you think it is for an upgrade?
Yeah, I think it's +1 and for a turret. Like, the more I look at Spirit's build, the more I think that he is truly hoping that SKillous opens up with a Stargate here and goes Phoenixes. That is something that SKillous likes to do in this matchup, and he does it quite frequently. But we know that SKillous is actually going for 4-gate Blink Stalker. He is actually getting a battery in his natural, so he's still a bit concerned about maybe a Hellion opening or something heading his way. The moment he knows that Spirit actually opened up 3 barracks triple CC or 2 barracks triple CC and then adds another barracks, I do think SKillous is going to be aggressive immediately. And I think he's going to try to end the game with Blink Stalkers. And if the control is there, cats, I absolutely do believe that this is one of these builds that could work out in his favor, and he should be able to win it.
Yeah, and that moment is quickly encroaching here as the Observer will give him all the information that he needs. Now 2 Marauders being made at a time from Spirit. The Observer will barely survive. That was actually quite scary. It's his first Observer. It's very important to allow for that Blink into the main base as well. And Spirit knows it, so he's actually gonna move his Marines on over and try to potentially snipe the Observer. Here comes a lot of Stalkers, only 2 Marauders out for Spirit. Combat Shield's not yet done. Does he need another Warping, Kev? When does he go? Oh crap.
Yeah, that's a very unfortunate moment to lag, as Spirit seemed to have ended his camera immediately. So I guess we are going to lose player cams for the rest of this one. It's very dangerous because you'd love to blink forward and potentially gun down that bunker. But if you do that and the buy units stim on top of your Stalkers, these Marauders don't need a whole lot of time to chew through a couple of those. So, yeah, I actually think the blinking in the main is too risky because obviously if you blink in the main, then blink is on cooldown. If then the buy units stim, you're going to lose all your Stalkers. So I think the best thing he can do is pretend that he's going for the main, but then change direction and blink into the natural, gun down the bunker, and then just start microing your heart out.
Okay, they've had a lot of time to think here as well. And SKillous does have vision of this army from Spirit. Is there any opportunity for SKillous to kind of blink to the left of the Observer so that it doesn't get spotted right away and then just kind of buy himself time to have blink available to blink out should he need to?
He might do that. I mean, the game is continuing, so let's go ahead and hop back into it. He is going to do that. He's going to try to blink into the bottom left side of the main base of Spirit. Spirit stims immediately, and cooldown on blink is not that long, but it's still, I want to say, a little too long here for SKillous as he ends up losing only a single Stalker. But with the opening that he's going for, Cats, he does need a lot more because he's being outmined by quite a bit at this point. The triple orbital really kicking in.
Yeah, very interesting time for the pause because both players, SKillous has time to potentially think about that play if he hadn't already thought about it, but Spirit also spots it right away, right? Like he thinks this is an option. I'm actually going to send an SCV there to check. So that gives him a very quick reaction and doesn't buy SKillous too much time for his blink. Now trying to make something happen on the low ground at the same time the War Prism's going to head into the main. SKillous is still transitioning into Colossus by the looks of it. 4 Stalkers will be able to one-shot SCVs if he can get them.
I'm pretty concerned though for SKillous because at this point it's 47 probes against 47 SCVs. The third nexus not even done yet. That's just not an economic position you ever want to find yourself in. I guess the good news is that he's playing against Spirit, who likes to take his sweet time and doesn't really rush to the other side of the map with the intention to end games. So maybe this game will go on for a little while. But we don't even have a Forge yet on the side of the Russian Protoss. And no Forge means that his units are going to have a hard time actually taking longer fights against the well-upgraded units of Spirit in the future.
Yeah, there's a tank already out, that +1 already well on the way for Spirit. What do you think, Kev, that he could have done a little bit different on the side of SKillous? Like, what is it about parting? Is it just the micro, or is it just leaning heavier on the aggression somehow? He did start Colossus and whatnot.
I think committing a lot harder. I think it's the first blink that's very important. I feel that parting, if he would have known there were that amount of units in the main base, he would have probably tried to pick up the bunker. Because this is one of these scenarios where you don't need to be in the main. You're not going up against tanks. So if he would have been able to pick up the bunker in the natural, then he could just roam around for days with his Stalkers, force out stims, and eventually overrun your opponent. I think that would have been a pretty realistic chance, but he didn't go for it. There are a couple of Stalkers now trying to get in range of the orbit at the bottom. He will find a tank for his troubles, but I still think he needs a whole lot more than what he's getting so far, Cats.
Yeah, I mean, that's a nice tank pickoff. I do like that he doesn't stutter step the second time for damage onto the CC, as it might have cost him an extra Stalker. There was a medium-sized stim from Spirit, so props to him. Obviously not stimming his whole army whatsoever, and that is kind of what we obviously expect from these players at this stage of things. Now, SKillous does have a lot of Zealots. He is maybe looking for an attack here. Templar Archives just finished as well, so possibility to warp in some additional Archons as well to aid in this fight.
Okay, this can actually work out well because Spirit seems to be thinking about the ultra long game already. He's dropping a 4th CC, Ghost Academy, 2nd eBay, while SKillous is not thinking about this at all. SKillous is thinking about potentially ending this game. Spirit will find a morphing Archon in the center of the map. I don't think he's going to be able to kill it because there's a War Prism nearby. But the sad news now for SKillous is that Spirit knows exactly what is up. Still sending a couple of Marines towards the top left. This game is probably going to end in the next minute. There is a chance for SKillous, but his army just has no upgrades though, so that does seem very, very problematic.
Yeah, good crisis management against the mines there from SKillous to pay attention while chasing the army of Spirit, but now Spirit has carved away through and into the third base. So 9 additional workers go down for SKillous. That is pretty much gonna put him all in here. Potentially, if he commits, Spirit knows it. He's gonna pull SCVs himself. Good force field there, and a second one kind of overlapping a little bit. Not the ideal, but it looks like SKillous does have a lot of army to chew through here from Spirit. Marauders are doing what they can, but the 3 Colossus are still standing tall. And Kev, this is looking good for the Russian.
It's looking very good. He doesn't have an observer here, though, so maybe the Widow Mines can fire again. That's going to make it a bit more problematic. I mean, Spirit, if he can take out the Colossus, he will probably still win this game because the rest is really not that powerful. These are units that don't have any upgrades, but he is losing to 30 SCVs at this point, 32 even. Yeah, it's going to be very hard to take out 3 Colossus when you're building 1 Viking at a time.
Oh, this CC is super huge as well. And with the War Prism coming back to grant division, SKillous will get it. Spirit with the opportunity definitely to repair, I think, that CC if he had planned that far ahead. And I mean, that's gonna be pretty good. I think SKillous now can kind of look to stabilize and not even necessarily push the issue. I'm not sure what he will choose, though.
Maybe he's going to recall because there is a double drop heading towards his third base. But he just warped in units on the other side of the map. Now he's running into Widow Mines right when the Army of Spirit has shown up. And I think SKillous just says, all right, then I'm going to try to end it. These Widow Mine shots are really starting to add up, though, cats. Spirit is still in it, despite the fact that he lost so many SCVs. And he lost the Orbital, but he is going to take out the entire base of SKillous. So SKillous now needs to run into the main of Spirit to pretty much just end this game.
Yeah, but that choke was deadly. Spirit losing so many units trying to re-engage here on this low ground. His CC will also fall again at the same time on the other side. I mean, this is kind of what you were talking about at the start of the game as well, right? If SKillous has the potential for defense or just to make the game chaotic and attack, he will choose the latter, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. We are seeing now SKillous scramble for the defense. His Nexus will get taken down, though. This game is getting feisty, but I still like SKillous' position a lot better.
Well, if he loses every main, he's actually in a bit of trouble because Terran buildings can fly. And he doesn't have a flying unit himself. Okay, but he has warped in enough units to at least stabilize in his natural, and that should be good enough for SKillous to secure victory here. I didn't know he had any units in the natural, but a few Stalkers gunning down one of these medevacs, that's going to be good enough. It feels like the leftover Army of Spirit here is simply not big enough anymore. It does get the kill on the Prism, so it reduces the micro potential, but yeah, we don't have the resources left to really build a whole lot of Vikings, do we?
Yeah, and as long as SKillous kind of maintains this position on the low ground as well, it's going to be very difficult to Spirit to compete economically. Like their economies look similar, and oftentimes when the economies look similar, we favor Terran because of the mules. But this time around, the real estate is far more important. There's only 3 or 4, soon to be 3 mineral patches left to mine in the main base of Spirit. He knows he has to make something happen, so he's gonna leave his base with a couple of medevacs already, and medevac on the other side of the map.
He's playing for the draw. Spirit is playing for the draw now. He's gonna try to kill the last main base of SKillous and then try to kill the probes and hope that SKillous doesn't have money to rebuild the Nexus. But now SKillous should really recall, though. Like, even if he doesn't have to, even if he can just end the game, he should absolutely recall. Because SKillous, you've got one job, and that is just make sure you don't lose his base, and he will recall.
Yeah, the scary part about the recall, if Spirit could have actually maybe pounced on the opportunity, is that you couldn't ever fit all of your army in one recall. So maybe that was the opportunity for the rest of the Army of Spirit to kind of fight the Army of SKillous. But it seems like everything that was left over is still enough. Like, SKillous' army is just that much larger. It's 97 army supplied to 54.
Yep, because SKillous has spent all of his resources this game into units. He hasn't dropped a forge, he hasn't gotten a whole lot of upgrades. The only upgrade he really got was Thermal Lens, I guess, and then obviously the Twilight upgrades, but that goes without saying. So that's why he just had so many units. Spirit, he's going to try to fly over the Orbital to his natural and get a couple of bunkers up. He's got a tank. Units will be unloaded. I mean, upgrades are good, cats, but can they really overcome a 43 army supply disadvantage?
Well, a lot of the Army of SKillous is on the other side, right? Because he has to account for those medevacs to be on the other side. Now that he knows that the Army of Spirit is here, however, he's bringing all of his army. So it's kind of a weird dance, but if Spirit managed to maybe get on the other side, he could still play for the draw with these 3 medevacs. It's looking very, very difficult. So a Spirit is going to have to make some very interesting choices here to give himself a chance. It's looking like SKillous should be able to close it here. The armies are both consolidated. I'm sure that, yeah, it looks like with this 3 Colossus, there's just no chance.
One Colossus does fall, but the rest of the Protoss army is simply a little bit too big, too much DPS, and all the Stalkers and the Archons. And the Russian Protoss will take the 1-0 lead in a game where it honestly didn't look too hot for him. But while Spirit was thinking about the 20-minute game, SKillous was thinking about ending it ASAP with his first 3 Colossus, a Prism, and a couple of Archons. No Forge, no Storm, no Disruptors. It was about that attack. And I think his life became a lot easier that Spirit was already dropping a 4th base. Just not really expecting this attack to come in the first place.
Yeah, very, very cool game. I mean, the final moments of that game were really interesting to me because Spirit had those 3 medevacs that were threatening on the other side. So SKillous had to leave army on his side of the map. But at the same time, if Spirit does situate the natural base, every second that he gets is good for him because of the mules and more or less the even economy otherwise. So what was brilliant for me was SKillous' decision-making there to know that is too much army, that is all of your army, your 3 medevacs already pulled back, obviously. So he pulls the Colossus back from his natural base as soon as possible and hits Spirit as soon as possible. And obviously, yeah, he had an overwhelming advantage, so he just needed to do that. But the fact that the decisions happened so fast on either side was awesome to watch.
Yeah, I think the game-winning move was him actually warping in the 5 Stalkers and the Zealot in his natural, because I was like, all right, you lost your 3rd base, no biggie, you're dealing more damage on the other side of the map. All right, you're losing your main base, perhaps no biggie, because you're killing his natural. But now we do need to make damn sure that we save our last base, otherwise Terran buildings can start hiding in the corner, and it could be a draw when it shouldn't be a draw. But SKillous was aware of that, and he spent a round or even 2 rounds of warpins into his natural. Soul picked up the units that were killing the main base, and he wanted to unload in the natural, but then there were a bunch of Stalkers there to high-five the medevac. That's all she wrote, baby. Over.
That is all she wrote, and it's kind of telling the story that we were telling, right? As far as like what we expect from both of these players, it's Spirit that's going to be playing for the longer games. It's SKillous that is going to be most likely on the aggression. It is going to be chaotic games if SKillous can make them so, and it's going to be fairly controlled games if we are to experience, I think, Spirit victories for the most part. So it's good for SKillous, actually, from my perspective, like mindset-wise, to win the first game of the series. I think that can relieve a lot of pressure, and I think that that's really important for him.
I do think we can be maybe a little bit critical of how Spirit was just kind of glancing past the mid game, and it felt like he almost wasn't aware of what was happening in the game. He never saw a Forge, he didn't see any AoE units other than those Colossus, but still he's dropping a 4th command center, getting the 2nd eBay, getting an armory, and moving out with his army at the same time, which are things you can and perhaps should do if this was a similar game and you go up against a Showtime or any other Protoss that likes to play for the late game, and Neep, for instance. But you should know your opponent a little bit, and I can only assume that Spirit has studied. I feel like these kinds of transitions where aggression just transitions into more aggression is something that we could expect from SKillous, and I felt that Spirit was still not ready for it.
Yeah, and this is one of my concerns for Spirit. He does tend to play in same-ish, regardless oftentimes of who he's playing against. He just likes certain styles, and that I think can be abused. So I was really hopeful for Spirit in, I believe, last season when he went up against Lambo, because he had such cool build orders and whatnot, and it felt like he was trying to diversify. But yeah, let's see if he's able to do that and find himself some wins in the series. And the top right-hand side of the map, it is Spirit for Kaisi.
And that, of course, means that in the bottom left side of 2K Atmosphere, we are looking at the main base of our Molodoi Bratan, hailing from Russia, representing Root Gaming. It is SKillous.
Tiny bit of a misclick there on the probe micro. So let's hope that's not any sort of jitters for SKillous. He's going to be scouting here potentially for some proxy barracks. That is one of the mix-ups that we have seen from Soul or from Spirit. So good on him to account for it.
I don't think anyone will ever be upset if you call Spirit Soul. Definitely won't be.
Yeah.
And I don't think he even would be upset over it. He's like, yeah, makes sense. We've casted him for 7 or 8 years in a row. We always called him Soul. It just takes a little while to get used to.
Yeah, and I mean, Spirit is as close as a word as it gets to Soul as well, so it doesn't help much.
Nope. And then you cast Soul Spirit every now and then in one of the European qualifiers, and that really doesn't help, but...
Right, so SKillous is gonna get on the other side of the map with his probe. He's just gonna scout what Spirit is doing, and there is gonna be a Marine yet again. So same opener as the last game for the time being. It is a large map. I wouldn't put it past him to just kind of open the same way.
I mean, it is a bit different, to be fair, right? Because last game we did have the eBay and a very early SCV heading towards the other side of the map. SKillous was ready for it, got first blood immediately on that SCV, was able to cancel that eBay and still get the Nexus down in the natural. He didn't have to deal with any of that. And the follow-up this time is also a bit different, because last game it was Marine into Reactor. Now it's Marine into Reaper and a Factory.
Yeah, very interesting. And I like that because it hints towards maybe Spirit wanting to be a little bit more concerned with what his opponent is going to be doing, gathering a little bit more information with a very offbeat Reaper. And after the Marine being spotted as well, SKillous may not be on the lookout for this Reaper. There may not be something like a shield battery or a unit in position to answer it when it does jump into the main.
It felt that last game, Spirit, his build was very good against Stargate, but obviously he didn't go up against Stargate. This time, I feel that if you are Skillous and you go Stargate, you kind of want to go up against what Spirit is doing. It is a bit unfortunate for him that this Reaper shows up at such a random moment, because it was Marine into Reaper rather than Reaper into Marine. So I guess he wasn't totally expecting it. And now I do believe that Spirit got the very easy scout off on the Stargate. So that's good news, obviously, for the Polish Terran.
Yes, indeed. Do you think Skillous still... Oh, this is very good. Actually, the Adept is going to make his way into the main. One of the SCVs will be saved, but I think Skillous is going to find it. Will turn around, barely gets it. Max range shot there. And another one going down here.
Wow, yeah, that's actually very good stuff for Skillous. These adepts are not even that important. You just kind of use them in the beginning of the game to A, be safe against nonsense, and B, get a scout off. If you then somehow find 3 SCVs, yeah, you're going to be more than happy with that. The Reaper has not found a single kill yet. Would love to find at least 1 probe, but I actually think the Reaper is going to go down too without getting anything. Yeah, I don't even think we need to lift. Nope. Well done by Skillous. Really good start for him here in game 2, man.
Very, very good. He's going to continue on with the Phoenix production as well after spotting that factory. I mean, there's not much that you can do if you are Spirit, right? Like, I mean, Phoenixes are going to be excellent against the likes of any factory unit really early on, because there's not going to be enough Marines to kind of gun down necessarily those Phoenix. And all of those factory units are perfect single targets because they are much more expensive than any single Marine that the Phoenixes could pick up.
Yep.
So Cyclone is up soon.
I mean, Twilight Council is going down. I do expect Skillous to play Phoenix Zealot here. And if Spirit makes a move out before basically the 5 or 6 minute mark when he's got a whole bunch of Marines with Stim, he could be in some trouble. But he is dropping a 3rd command center, so maybe he's not going to do that. Because Skillous' build is going to be absolutely perfect against early move outs if he just chrono boosts the hell out of charge. But, I mean, I cannot imagine that this is the first time that Spirit has ever been in this situation. So he should be aware of it. And the best thing that he can do at this point as a Terran is not do a whole lot. Just try not to take any damage from the Phoenixes. Make sure you get an economy going and make sure you get Steam and Combat Shield up and running.
All right. Skillous drops his 3rd, but has resumed now Phoenix production. Is there a number that you like, Roddy, being the resident Phoenix expert?
To infinity and beyond.
All right. We'll see if Skillous chooses to do that. Of course, that's always an option. Of course, if you want to transition into Colossus later as well, right? Kind of like make sure that you win that air battle and have the Colossus reign supreme. But yeah, Skillous for the time being, he'll make a lot more Phoenixes, and he's poking to see if he can find anything. An important SCV there.
Yeah. Memes aside, I actually believe if the Terran doesn't have Ghost, there is never a bad thing as too many Phoenixes. Once Ghosts are out, then you have to be a bit more careful about what you build. Now, if you do want to go Phoenix Colossus, then it also depends, is the Terran responding with Marauders, Ghost, and mostly ground units, or do they try to out-Viking you? If they try to out-Viking you, you can obviously get a Fleet Beacon in a 2nd and 3rd Stargate even. But if it mostly comes down to the buy units, then of course you don't want to go too ham on the Phoenixes, because then your robo production is going to be a bit more important. But at this point, there's no reason to stop producing Phoenixes.
Yeah, we see the armor upgrade here. Chrono boosted from Skillous, so perhaps hinting at that composition that you were talking about with the Zealots being chunkier and tankier on the low ground rather than getting perhaps attack upgrade for earlier Colossus or something like that, and instead his splash damage that he's going to be relying on seemingly is going to be Storm and High Templars.
I think it's mostly Archons first, which I know isn't even really splash damage, but you can't really rush into Storm if you have this many Phoenixes. Because Phoenix and Storm, that just doesn't go very well together. Like Phoenix, Storm, and Zealot are 3 units that it sounds awesome, but it's just not that awesome. Like, it all costs too much gas, units overlap, you're going to kill your own units. it doesn't quite work. I think what SKillous is hoping for is to hit a devastating timing with a lot of Zealots, a couple of Archons, mostly to be tanky, but sure, a couple of splash shots wouldn't hurt. And then just hope that it can completely overrun Spirit. In a weird way, this is kind of an all-in, which I know doesn't make sense because he's on 62 probes, he's been economically ahead. But if this attack falls flat on its face, SKillous is in all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, he's not going to have a lot of tech to fall back to, so this makes a lot of sense. Thank you for the explanation there. The mines are going to be crucial. A big stim actually to find nothing really on the side of Spirit is not the way that you want to start this fight. Of course, most of the units will be healed up, but that's energy that the medivacs won't have later. These mines are actually going to splash the bio units as well and only connect them to a few Zealots. This is a great angle for Skillous to engage, but the Zealots are running a little bit too far ahead of the army. However, the Phoenix are doing a great job of killing the air in the medivacs and the Vikings, and this is looking very, very good once again for the Russian.
Yep, I do think he should wait a little bit for the extra Zealots to show up, but that went about as good as it ever could have gone. I was surprised and intrigued by the mass lift he decided to go for with all the Phoenixes, but it worked out. He does manage to lift these two Widow Mines too, and this could very well be. Okay, now he's lifting Marauders. It takes a little while to kill those, but the Archon is helping out. This is honestly going so well for Skillous. He can warp in a few more Zealots. Look at the minimap. It's a never-ending string of Zealots coming in. And it's not like we've got a bunker or a nice Sim City to fall back to. The mines get picked up. Bit of friendly fire too. I think Skillous is doing it, Cats.
Yeah, it looks pretty much over. I mean, the natural has been breached. Skillous even going for the main right now. Spirit scrambling to try and close the gap. But already two Zealots are inside. The rest of the Zealots are still working at the SCVs in the natural base. Even if Spirit was to somehow hold this, he's going to be in a terrible position economically. Half of the supply for the pole, and GG will be called.
Skillous actually executed that attack really well because it felt like hell to run into that with Phoenix, Zealot, Archon to some degree, because he didn't even have observers there, right? So there are multiple Widow Mines. All the bio is choked up in the middle line, which works out really well for bio units in general, but Skillous did a good job in just like flying around with the Phoenixes, and then he did a good job in splitting off 2 or 3 Zealots to make sure that the Widow Mines, like you mentioned, a friendly fired a little bit at the bio, and then he went for the mass lift, which I'm like, at first I'm like, I don't know if this is the correct choice, because if you lift 7 units with 7 Phoenix, you obviously don't kill anything, but it did push all the other units back, and then when those Marines dropped, Zealots were right on top of them, and the Phoenix went completely uncontested for the majority of that fight. So really well done by Skillous. Make no mistake, that is an all-in, but yeah, who cares if it works, right?
Yeah, very, very nice. Do you feel like maybe what could Soul have or Spirit have done better? Maybe more mines? There was only the 2, right? And like you said, there was no observer.
A little bit of a Sim City and a bunker as well. Like if you have a bunker behind 2 depots, that Zealot Archon Phoenix army is terrible. So I think a missile turret and a bunker, and I actually think he holds there with flying colors. Like he's not even going to struggle. But yeah, not having a turret allowed the Phoenixes to get into the middle of the mineral line, lift all these units. Turrets and bunkers are the worst nightmare of Zealots, Phoenixes, and Archons.
Yeah, turrets sound like a nightmare indeed. Actually, you never want to target fire those because the bio does so much damage and the turrets have a pretty decent chunk of HP. That makes a lot of sense to me. Skillous, though, finding a 2-0 to start, looking very, very strong here. And he's playing that tempo type style that we expect from him. He has an advantage here, obviously, in the series that's big enough that I think nerves should be easily shrugged off. And yeah, I mean, Spirit is the one that's going to have to bring it back some way, somehow.
Yep. And I do feel that Skillous is getting the mental advantage as well when it comes to the build orders that he's choosing, right? In the first game, Soul or Spirit would have had an excellent build against Stargate. Instead, it's Twilight. I do think the game looked all right for him. He just kind of misread the situation a little bit. Second game, I think Skillous gets one of the builds that he would love to go up against with Phoenix Zealot, because he does skyrocket up to 3 bases. He's under no pressure whatsoever. And Spirit moving out too early would have actually been a mistake. But yeah, then Spirit once more, it felt that he was already thinking about maybe Phoenix, Colossus way down the line, like a pylon and a gateway going up that close towards your 3rd base. I think that is a bit of a mistake, and at the highest level, you are supposed to be looking for these things.
Yeah, definitely. Well-chosen strategies for Skillous as well. I mean, even for the map, just that 3rd is one of the more open, wide spaces that there is. So even for Soul, for Spirit, it would have been kind of difficult to kind of make too many wall-offs and stuff like that. There was still room to at least make a bunker or make some sort of Sim City, right? But still, well chosen from Skillous. Credit to him for that.
Spirit is now requesting a little break, and obviously we're gonna grant that to him. Players always have the right to take a couple minutes for themselves. Don't forget, this is very stressful for a lot of these guys at home. You know, they are battling their way through pretty stacked group stages for 2 weeks non-stop. They are under a lot of stress. Then you do finally make it into the playoffs, and you blink twice, you're down 0-2 with your tournament life on the line. I do think it is very wise. If you feel irritated, if you feel too fired up, take a moment, take a little moment, take a step back, walk away from the computer, and then sit down again a couple minutes later and forget about these first 2 games. Well, don't forget about the mistakes, but forget about the frustrations you may feel when you think of them.
Yeah, for sure. Just clear your mind, right? Like if there's thoughts occupying your mind, then that's, that space that you can't use to generate actual useful thoughts for the games that are coming up. So regrets have no room here in this type of situation. I would have actually thought it's usually SKillous who actually asks for these little breaks. So it really does speak to the space that Spirit is in. We don't usually hear him or know him to complain or to suffer much from mentality issues per se, right? Like he seems like the type of player that can reset pretty fast. But this was quick and dirty.
Yeah, exactly. That's, I think the key word here is dirty, Cats, because it's not like he's been outplayed. Basically, 2 times he is ready for a fun, nice macro game, made a better player win, and then SKillous said, destroy them with lasers, and that's basically what he did. These are the most frustrating best of 5s to play for a Terran, where it's like, come on, just play a normal game. You know, why are these games ending so early? Why don't you drop a Forge? I know there was a Forge in the second game, but that's just for that +1 armor timing attack. But it seems like Spirit is good to go. Game 3 is going to be played on Lightshade, and even though he's down 0-2, I don't think he's down and out, Cats. I absolutely do believe that he has the skills to bring this back and make this a very close and competitive series.
Yeah, most definitely. And if he can get some momentum on his side, I do believe that momentum in this particular matchup ban against SKillous, who does play a bigger role than most matches. So we'll see if Spirit can win this map first. How do you feel about this map in the matchup? Like feature-wise, is there something that tells you or makes you lean towards a certain set of strategies over others?
Actually kind of interesting. Haven't thought about it that much, because Lightshade is obviously different than the Romanticide and 2K. It's a map where it's not bad to go for Phoenix, but if you go up against 3 Rex, it actually gets really uncomfortable because it's not that big and it shows up early. I do think that SKillous is going to go for a Twilight build. Maybe even something funky like Quick Dark Templars, like just to, I don't know, throw your opponent for a spin. But good work.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could very well be the case. All right. So Lightshade it is, and spawning in the bottom right-hand side of the map, it's the Terran player down 0-2, Spirit.
And in the top left side, we're looking at the main base of the man who's up 2-0. Does he indeed have a curveball or 2 for his Polish Terran opponent? This is SKillous.
Yeah, DTs I think are really interesting, Kev, because on this map we also, from Terran players against Protoss, we see a lot of 2-base tank pushes and the likes. But opponent-wise, and obviously DTs are going to be great against that because, you know, there's not the third CC and the third orbital for scans, etc. And, you know, you can lose a lot of momentum and gas when you go for that sort of strategy. But against Spirit, knowing that he has been playing the way that he likes to play and dropping those extra third CCs, do you feel like it's a little bit weaker of an opening, or can you still carve yourself away aggressively?
I'm not exactly sure what SKillous is expecting of Spirit on Lightshade, so it's really hard for me to answer. But yeah, I think DT's worst case scenario, it makes the game go on for a bit, right? Like we've seen Zest open Dark Shrine time and time again, and even if his opponents know that it's coming, well, he'll just morph them into Archons. He does a little bit of an Archon harass, and maybe it's not the dream spot for a Protoss player to be in, but it's definitely not bad. I wish that Spirit, for best of 5s like this, would play the player a little bit more than the matchup. Because so far, 3 games in, I feel like he's just playing another TVP best of 5. While SKillous is really not doing anything that I think surprises us a lot. He's aggressive, he's hectic, he's trying to hit timing attacks. And if it doesn't surprise us, I feel like it shouldn't surprise Spirit either.
Yeah, at least on the side of SKillous, he is playing to his reputation, but he's still mixing it up, right? Like this proxy pylon, for example. Another example, last game he opened a little bit different than the game before, and so on and so forth. Whereas For Spirit, yeah, scout timings have varied, but for the most part, it's that Marine opening that we've seen 3 games in a row as well into macro game.
It's going to be a Stalker first here for SKillous, which is a bit different than what most professional Protoss players do. Adept is more often than not the first unit in this matchup. There is a Twilight Council. The probe has left the bottom left though, so I don't think it's going to build a Dark Shrine there. And our observer, Njal, has obviously been doing a phenomenal job in the group stages and the playoffs, shows us that Spirit has a casual SCV in the main base of SKillous.
Yeah, very, very cool. I mean, can you really make something like a starport? I almost wish the starport would be outside. So it's just a scouting SCV. It looks like it's going to go back in. Because I saw the factory is already done, right? Like, maybe he could have dropped the factory if it was timely and tried to sneak in some mines or something.
I think it should have been a command center, mate. Just planetary force, first rush him.
PF rush?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, Blink is going to be the opening here for SKillous. And Spirit is opening up with a Widow Mine by the looks of it. Could be just a casual mine drop. Did SKillous scout the fact that there is a factory? No, he doesn't quite know yet. So I'm sure that he's worried about 3 Rex or even a 2 Barracks triple CC opening as well. But so far, I feel like he's been choosing right every single game. And I don't hate this setup either, to be honest.
Yeah, it's going to be Blink against seemingly Widow Mine drops you expect here, or is there any other flavor that we can be on the lookout for?
No, I think it's going to be a double or a triple mine drop. Maybe Spirit even moves out with the Marines too, but then it obviously becomes a bit more committed, because if that doesn't work out, you've got 0 army supply at home. So SKillous is switching it up, and he's playing the macro version of the Twilight Council. This is really good when you go up against Mind Rep, man. Because if it's a 3 rack, you're like, okay, now it's going to be hard, right? Because there's going to be so many bio units running towards my side of the map, or the 2 base tank pushes. I think Widow Mine drop is the ideal build to go up against. So SKillous once more just choosing wisely. But then, of course, he needs to make sure he doesn't take too much damage from the Widow Mines in the first place. And look at Spirit. He's building a missile turret. That's the absolute last thing he needs here.
Yeah, I guess he's anticipating that there could be something like Dark Templars coming out. I mean, it seems a little bit late to anticipate anything like Stargate, and he does have those Marines available. Let's see if he can find something with the Widow Mine. At least the Stalkers are not quite in position to answer this medevac that has gone all the way up the north.
I think it's really good for SKillous, though. Blink is done already. If he can get the medevac... Yeah, he doesn't quite get the medevac, so at least a few probes will go down. Nice on barrel micro at first by Spirit. You do need to set up for something. There's one more mine drop that's going to try to get a good connection in the natural. Oh, that's SKillous. He is paying attention. Man, it's really good for SKillous because he's going up to 3 bases so quickly. The only downside here is that he didn't kill the medevac yet, which I do believe he absolutely had the chance to do so. But overall, you can't be too upset with how this is gone.
Yeah, good reaction here, spotting the Raven and moving the Observer right away. So I don't know that Spirit has caught wind of that Observer on his side of the map. And with this, I mean, he has the 3rd base. This is where maybe just SKillous can look to slow down the game for once and be kind of the macro player in the series, at least in this particular map, right?
Yeah, but never change a winning team. So far, the aggression has been working out for him. And he's just getting more gateways. He hasn't dropped a forge yet. He has 2 more gateways. It feels that SKillous at this point is anticipating a big 2-base play from Spirit. And maybe SKillous just looks at this game and says, if I survive his first attack, I'm going to win, because I will completely overrun him. The Raven is showing up in the main base, drops another turret. This is nice for Spirit, not just because of the damage, but he also gets his scout off, sees extra gateways, and also sees there is no forge or robo.
Yeah, and I would say that is the right read from SKillous, right? In a certain sense, Spirit does not have a 3rd on the way at all. He does get +1 here for the upgrade. Stim and Combat Shields is almost done. So do we expect a move out from Spirit here soon?
I actually think if he wants to move out, an SCV pool would be very good here. Because SKillous doesn't have Archons, doesn't have Colossus, doesn't have Storm or Disruptors. So SCVs protecting the bio is the dream scenario, but that's not really something that Spirit does very often. Now the doors are open in the natural. This is going to be hard, man. He needs to micro his heart out with this little hit squad of units, because he doesn't just need a good trade, he needs a phenomenal trade.
All right, let's see if he's able to accomplish that with Blink as well. These medevacs will get killed if he loses the fight on the ground potentially, so he has to be really, really careful. The battery is really well positioned as well. I love that one, very well tucked in. So if there needs to be battery overcharge, the Terran player will have to overextend in order to engage that battery. So SKillous with everything that he needs here to hold so far. Spirit with a third on location now, or attempting at a third on location.
Oh, he's sending out a double drop. I do think it's gonna live. Yeah, I was worried that I was gonna run into the Stalkers at first, but still, this game is getting hectic now. Spirit, just go home, mate. There are no upgrades on these gateway units. It doesn't matter if he has 11 more probes and your third base is a little bit later. I mean, his army is good, so maybe if the Widowmine connections are good, it's going to be fine, but I really don't think this is necessary.
There are a lot of Zealots here, so let's see if the Widowmine connections will be good indeed. And Burrow will actually tax 3 Zealots for free there on the side of Spirit. He will kill those Zealots. So SKillous actually not the best engagements here to start.
Yep. I think SKillous missed a massive opportunity to have a gateway or a prism on the right side of the map. And the moment that Spirit made his first move out, if he would have just sent in 3 or 4 Zealots into the natural, instead of going with those Blink Stalkers, if he would have just gone with a few Zealots, it would have been great for him. And if you're going up to 8 gateways, no Forge, no additional tech, I feel like that's kind of mandatory, because that's the only way you can really make a gateway style only without upgrade shine, like non-stop run-bys. The run-bys just weren't there.
Yeah, look out for the Zealot run-by, however, as there is one single turret in the natural base on Dark Shrine just finished for SKillous. So defensively and offensively, now he will have the Dark Templars as a very powerful tool in his arsenal. The Zealots are now moving into the natural base of Spirit as well. And now the army of Spirit moving into the third of SKillous. Very good force yields here, but very good reaction as well from Spirit to save those units at the front.
I feel like the Dark Templars really need to make some magic happen. Now, there is a DT slicing up SCVs now in the third, so this is obviously good. If I'm Spirit, I'm like, you know what? I'm done with you, mate. Oh no, SKillous actually attacked his own battery too there, but how do we clean up this army? I feel like there is just no way to clean up this army, because the Zealots and Stalkers don't have any upgrades of the Forge. This is 1-1 bio, and even though Spirit is losing a lot of SCVs on the other side of the map, I don't see his army being stopped.
Yeah, I mean, energy on the command centers is pretty low, so perhaps with DTs, he can make something happen defensively on the other side. Obviously, Spirit's not ever gonna drop another mule for the time being, at least as long as this army is out here. Ooh, be careful with that medevac for sure. And SKillous is actually gonna find an opportunity here where he thinks he can engage. The Widowmine goes down before it gets any shots off, but the bio is too dense here, it looks like, for these Zealots. The auto turret's gonna help a little bit, and now SKillous, is he doing it, Kev?
He's getting a decent fight, but I don't think he's doing it yet. He is going to be forced to disengage. Killing the Raven is nice, though, but don't forget that he also lost his third already. So just killing a couple of bio units here is not even going to be good enough. It feels like he shot at his own Stalker there, or at least he didn't shoot at the medevac. So these 2 medevacs will get out of there.
Oh, man.
And you look at the natural Spirit, and he's got a lot of units, and these mines have really been going to town on the economy of SKillous. I think this one is all over. SKillous is going to try to end this game, but there is no way he's going to succeed in that.
I mean, these mines have 31 workers killed between them. Make it 42 now, so that is quite nasty from those Widow Mines. I mean, SKillous did a good job with the DTs harassing the economy of Spirit on the other side, but now he is completely all in. Spirit knows this. He has a nice setup here with turrets, with supply depots as well to provide some buffer against those Zealots. Nice Widow Mines in the back as well, and he can just bide his time. Oh.
Well, he's just gonna go for it. There are a lot of force fields available, but the army of SKillous is just nowhere near good enough. Even if the force fields are absolutely perfect, it's still not going to be good enough. Spirit is just gonna stim through, take down the prism, take down a couple of sentries, and Spirit will get his first point on the board. I really think that SKillous missed a big opportunity because he didn't drop a forge, right? He didn't drop a forge or an early robo. If he has 5 Zealots ready to run into the natural the first time Spirit moves out, I think that's his key to victory. Because just trying to rely on your army forever is not going to do it when the bio units are getting upgrades and the gateway units are not getting upgrades. So, shame.
Yeah, I would have set himself a nice win condition. I mean, the Force Stalkers do one-shot SCVs, but the bio cleans them up pretty fast, right? Like the reinforcements. So, yeah, I mean, that sucks. We are going to go to a quick break, and when we get back, the rest of the series. We are back once again with the series between SKillous and Spirit. Spirit took the last map, making it 2-1 in favor of SKillous. My name is Katz, joined by Roddy, and we are now headed into Oxide.
You know what was a very big moment on Lightshade? Was the very first medevac flying in, because there were 5 Stalkers with Blink, and if those Stalkers would have been a little bit closer towards the Nexus, and he blinks one time and he actually kills the medevac, it doesn't really matter how good the mine shots are. Even if they kill 3-4 probes and a Stalker, that takes away a lot of momentum. But the fact that that first medevac actually survived, was able to stick around a bit longer, I also think really helped this man by getting a point on the board. He really has to work for it today. He's still down 1-2, but maybe he got some momentum on his side now. Hailing from Poland, it is Spirit.
And in the bottom left-hand side from Russia, it's SKillous.
Does he think he's playing PvP, Cats?
Yeah, it seems that way, right? Like, we're gonna see a gateway here on the low ground. That is gonna give him quicker access to the crossing the map, if that even comes into play at all. I'm not sure what else is good from this opener.
I guess we can get an easy wall off once we're on 2 bases, and maybe just a single unit can keep Hellions at bay, or a couple of Marines even. But I'm a bit surprised, and I do think what you said initially is probably why he's doing it. Just to get that first adept to the other side of the map a bit quicker. It messes with the timings a little bit, because all these Terrans, they obviously play this matchup over and over again, and you just know when that first adept is supposed to show up. This SV is running really low on HP, but it does get help from its body, so no first blood. Yeah, I guess it all comes down to the first adept, just showing up a little bit quicker.
All right, we'll see if that plays any part in what happens here. Another Marine opening on the side of Spirit. And yeah, I mean, you felt last game like there was an opportunity for SKillous to snipe the medevac. Do you think then it was just a positional issue? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a bit of a guessing game, right? Definitely not a mistake by any means, but just a bit unfortunate, because I think with 5 Stalkers and Blink ready, if a medevac commits, you should always be able to kill it. So I think it was just a bit unfortunate, not necessarily a mistake, but one of these little things that could have had a big impact on how the game played out. What I do think was an actual mistake is, if you go up to 8 gateways and you're purely relying on Zealots and Stalkers, you need to be looking for chaos and run-bys immediately. You can't just be making Zealots and Stalkers without a Forge, without High Templars as a follow-up, or Disruptors, Colossus, and expect to be fine, right? That just doesn't really happen normally.
Yeah, I guess you're just not really scaling up, and that's going to be a problem down the line. So yeah, Spirit with a good victory as well, right? Like, it's very important for him, I think, to get that one on the board when he does. SKillous sometimes does drop series after being up 2-0. He's not in unfamiliar territory, and I expect that if Spirit wins this one, it's going to be SKillous asking for a little bit of a pause.
Ooh, starport in the bottom side of the map. Well, that's different, something we haven't seen yet. And I actually kind of like it, because most of the time when they go for Hellion drops on this map, you expect the starport to be somewhere around 9 o'clock, right? That's normally where you find it, or even a bit higher towards the top left behind the side blocker. But now Spirit could potentially drop Hellions into the natural. Yeah, you can already see SKillous, he is scouting for the obvious. It's like, all right, if you're opening up with a factory and a reactor, I am expecting you to have a starport. Actually, a really smart location by Spirit. I love it.
Yeah, but also very good job from SKillous, kind of checking both areas. He's going to scout his entire half side of the map, so using the adepts to do exactly just that. And I mean, there was basically no place left unscouted, or very little of it. So getting all the more dangerous positions will catch wind of what Spirit is able to do here.
I actually love that Python on the low ground too. I think it was Trap or Zest who did that a couple of times a while ago in one of the tournaments we casted. And I'm like, that's actually so smart, because it gives you extra vision against the Hellions. And it's not like Hellions are going to waste a minute of their time trying to kill a pylon. This is not something that really happens. I don't know if that pylon caught it, but this probe on the low ground is going to give the heads up that the Hellions are here, and this is really good for SKillous, man. Every second that goes by, more energy on the Phoenixes. Another Phoenix is about to pop. We shouldn't lose too many probes here. How many? Okay.
All right, we'll see. I mean, two important Hellions get lifted up. Of course, 3 Hellions can one-shot probes, so SKillous, knowing that, lifts up 2 right away and only has lost 5 probes for 4 Hellions and a medevac. A very good start.
Yeah. And let's not forget that Starport still needs to make it home safely too. Maybe SKillous can hunt it down. That's exactly what he's doing. Phoenixes are on the lookout. Adepts are going to check to see if it's still at the bottom. It's not. Phoenixes will probably find it soon. They're going to miss it at first. Yeah, I think it could have been even better for SKillous, but still a pretty alright start. I'm definitely with you. Like 5 probes with 4 Hellions and a medevac while going up to 3 bases already. You can't be upset about that as a Protoss.
Yeah, it can't feel too bad either that your opponent just has a Cyclone on the other side of the map. I mean, there's not too much to threaten this Phoenix for the time being. The medevac, like you said, had to fly all the way back, so the starport had to fly all the way back, so there won't be medevacs for a little bit here or anything to answer this Phoenix. They will continue to find kind of free damage, and that is pretty good when you already have the economic lead.
Yep. Man, he's got a lot of Phoenixes out already, eh? 5 Phoenix going up to 6, and I don't think he's going to slow down anytime soon. 5 gateways being warped in now at once, and we also have a Forge, so he's probably just heading for +1 armor again. Some Protoss players actually like to get +1 attack on the Zealots, but I always think that's a bit confusing, because it feels like the Zealots are going to be really good against Bio regardless, if they just stay alive long enough to get on top of Bio in the first place.
Yeah, and Bio just does so much damage or so little damage per shot, but so much damage over time. So armor just negates 20% of their damage. It's actually pretty nuts right off the gate.
Hey.
So go on.
Yes, Spirit. I want Soul, Skiller, Spirit. Damn it, too many S's. But Spirit is going up to 5 barracks. So this is definitely feeling like a either 2-base all-in or at least heavy commitment to the 2-base push, and trying to do potential game-ending damage. I wonder if this is a moment where he would consider pulling the SCVs. Because if you're fighting pure Phoenix Zealot, maybe 1 or 2 Archons, but it's mostly pure Zealot Phoenix, I actually think SCVs are super useful. And yes, it's scary to pull SCVs with your tournament life on the line, but if it is the correct choice, then I do think you should just go for it.
Yeah, do you find that he's more or less likely, because he does have tanks as well, right? So that can actually serve to splash your own SCVs, whereas in the last game, for example, he didn't have anything that would get in the way of those.
Yeah, but I think we can even leave the tanks on siege, because it's mostly about the Marines here. Like, Marines is what's going to win this game. It's not going to be the tanks. SKillous is dropping a Robo, and you can see that he's just flying around. I love this, actually, that he's splitting up his Phoenix group. That's really cool. It's going to grant him some extra vision, but he will still just get the heads up that all the units are still at home. I'm really expecting an SCV pull here, man. If he doesn't do it, I'll be kind of surprised.
Alrighty, so let's see if he's going to end up doing it. It doesn't look like it for now, but maybe down the line. I mean, these Phoenix are going to kill a lot of SCVs regardless, right? So they're going to get in this mineral line. They're now looking to cut reinforcements. So SKillous, a very good timing here, knowing you just moved out. This is when I want to hit you. This is when I want to cut reinforcements as early as possible. Here come the
boys.
It's going to be better. And here come the boys indeed. All right, there we go, Kev. Your wish has been granted. Will this be enough?
I think it's really smart by Spirit. I think if he executes it well, it's going to be enough. But maybe this is SKillous' moment. Oh my goodness, all the Marines were exposed. Phoenixes are going to come in. This is a game-deciding fight, cats. And I think I like it for SKillous. Even if he's losing a lot of units at first, like what he's doing here is he's reducing the Marine count. And that is so important. He can take a later fight with a battery overcharge. I think a very good start, especially with how many Phoenixes are still alive. He just picked off 2 tanks. Oh my goodness, he's doing it.
Yeah, I really like the disengage as well. And here comes the battery overcharge that you were talking about. I mean, this was looking very good for Spirit. I think if we replay this game and the SCVs are in the front, SKillous has no business really engaging that army right there and then. But as it stands, I mean, it's looking extremely difficult for Spirit, who has to make something happen now. After that SCV pull, he is super committed to this.
Yep, he did not expect to face the army of SKillous in the center of the map. I love everything that SKillous is doing now. Running back towards the cannon. He's picking up some reinforcements with his Phoenixes. It's still going to be somewhat close because there's still 60 army supply on the side of Spirit, who is doing his best microing, but the medevacs are starting to fall. I cannot believe how close this is still, despite the fact that I feel that SKillous has done almost everything right given the circumstances.
Yeah, it's actually extremely close. The Bio is now getting overstimmed. Only 2 medevacs now, with the second one arriving, will have energy. SKillous is still holding his ground. Good lift up there from Spirit to prevent the game ending and serious ending disruptor shot. But will that be enough? It's not looking likely. The mine will splash what remains of the Bio as well in this process. The next battery overcharge gets spent, and with that, it looks like SKillous is going to stabilize, and stabilizing means winning.
He just warped in 5 sentries. This Russian
What?
boy is so crazy sometimes. I guess he can drop a few force fields and maybe he just feels that every unit he shapes off. He's now dropping a Templar Archives too. SKillous, I would save your money, mate. Just warp in whatever you can warp in. He does fire a Nova, kills the Widowmine. Like he's got a Robo Bay too. I would much prefer to see him queue up a Colossus than drop a Templar Archives now.
For sure in the Templar Archives. The sentries I can kind of understand. He's really low on minerals at this point and had to pull some probes. So he has even stopped mining some gas here and there to try and get some more sturdier units out like the Zealots, but he warped in so many that he had just a lot of excess gas. So that is kind of probably where his head is at still when he drops the Templar Archives. A very good drop here from Spirit, trying to make something happen in the main of SKillous. Has killed a lot of workers, but not nearly enough to equalize things.
That's an Artosis Pylon if I've seen one. 6 gateways being unpowered at once. Now the reinforcements have arrived
for
God. Spirit as he's going to get on top of the third base. And SKillous may have been getting a little bit too carried away. Why would you warp in a Templar Archives there where all you need is units? And even the Phoenix is flying to the other side of the map. He now drops to 34 probes. And it's obviously 2 base against 2 base. Oh, he was so close, cats.
Yeah, he really needs to repower these buildings as well. I mean, he is floating a little bit of money, so we'll have some money for warp-ins here available when those buildings are finally repowered. And I mean, as far as economy is concerned, SKillous is still in a playable position, but now Soul or Spirit is kind of back in it as well.
Yeah, we are going to Chrono Boost out something of the robotics facility. This is going to be a Colossus now, but he's still supply block. That's very unfortunate. Spirit does need to be a little bit careful. I think he's afraid to wait too long, and then potentially a Colossus could get out. So we're going to get another double drop in the main base. These Marines do still have +1. At least SKillous can now start building his Colossus, but not for long. 6 gateways will once more be unpowered.
Oh, God.
And there are 3 gateways that have been unpowered for a little while on the top left side of SKillous' main. So 9 out of 10 gates are currently unpowered.
Yeah, that is actually bananas. Both Phoenix under peril here. One will fall. The other one is trying to be targeted down by Spirit, but will not be so this time around. This Phoenix is super important, and it will actually go down. That gives Spirit free reign with his medevacs to relocate over and over and just find annoying positions. He can even just go and reload them, and there's not much for the time being that SKillous can do about it. There's one single Stalker and sentries that will tickle those medevacs.
Yeah, I would actually love to see Spirit maybe fly over his main towards the third so he can fully saturate a base again. SKillous is going to try to repower the 3 gateways in the top left. That's not going to work out. Now even the Robo Bay is taking a lot of damage and will fall. At least the sentries picked up that one super low HP medevac. Is there a world where SKillous can still hit a Colossus Archon attack, Cats?
I mean, he definitely can hit the attack, Kev, but will he win them the game? That's the better question, and I don't think so. It's gonna be extremely difficult from this position. I mean, the roles have swapped on every front right now. It's Spirit with a much bigger army, and now with a better economy as well. With the main landing at the third, he has the better real estate, and he has orbital commands to work with as well.
And these Zealots, though, finding 10 SCVs. I mean, that's the casual 25% of the entire economy that Spirit had to work with in the first place. Colossus do not have thermal lens, so they're going to be a little bit more awkward. I actually think the Liberator is very smart. Zealot's going to show up one more time in the third. This time they will get deflected by the leftover bio units. Spirit has a lot of supply out on the map now, but I think all he really needs to do is just siege up his tanks. This game is gonna get bananas, cats. Like, I know Spirit is kind of winning, but these Colossus are gonna have a field day against the Marines.
All right, they're actually gonna siege this base and kill everything here. There's also the potential for the the most magnificent disruptor shot ever. There is so much sentry energy at this point, Kev, that I wouldn't mind some hallucinations, either just to tank or to confuse your opponent perhaps. But yeah, this game is indeed getting bananas. The supplies are super close right now. But I mean, how do you defend if you're SKillous?
I think you recall. I think he has to recall. If he recalls one Colossus here and a few Zealots, I actually think that would be enough. But he just wants to kill at least one of these orbitals, and he may get the orbital now. I think you should recall, no? Shouldn't you recall? I mean, it's now or never.
Yep, and there it goes. There's the recall. I mean, it is now or never. This is the final fight about to happen. Both players are going to fight for their lives here. Alone, that disruptor shot is going to force Spirit to disengage, and that's actually very important for SKillous, who picks up a medevac also on the back of that disengage of like 40 Guardian Shields or co-op.
There's a tank at the third base of SKillous. What the hell is that tank doing there? That tank needs to be at home. I think I kind of like it, man, for SKillous. That one Colossus, 6 Stalkers. The Stalkers have Blink. +2 is done for SKillous. And Spirit just has no chill. He keeps on sending units to the other side of the map. He's going to try to get these bunkers up, but that's not going to work. Oh my goodness. 6 probes against 9 probes. Cats, what are these games that we are witnessing today?
I have no idea. And even if the CC manages to just land on the natural base, there's 2 mineral patches left there, right? So yes, this is the easy way or the easy place for Spirit to kind of secure with the Liberators, but they don't really grant them much.
The 6 probe Dark Shrine. Can you believe it?
I love it. I mean, it's a great decision, I think.
Ooh, Disruptor is very close towards those 6 or 7 Marines there on the right side. I mean, SKillous is going to be able to scout for days because he still has 9 sentries.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of bananas. I do like this medevac from Spirit. It could really put a dent into the economy. There isn't a recall available, you said?
No.
Yeah,
not for a little while.
That's further annoying. I don't think SKillous needs to make anything happen or commit here at all. And yeah, there's that lack of recall that's going to bite him back. Now goes and commits after the CC. Actually, I'm not sure that this was the play, but now that he's here, I guess it feels like it. Now with all of the SCVs, though, repairing, Spirit is going to take a good trade. And on the other side, SKillous will be forced to tap out. What an insane game.
Oh my god, but even there in the end, right? If the units are just at home, it's not that bad for SKillous because they both have no economy. But his army really wasn't doing that poorly, and he could still get a couple of extra probes out. Sure, that one orbital could float over towards the third again, but then he's gonna get a much better fight. It almost felt that he's so eager to end it, Cats. He's so eager to punch his ticket into the round of 12 of the DreamHack Masters, and it's really coming to bite him in the butt a little bit. Like, the fight in the center against the SCV pool was perfect. Because he literally got on top of the Marines immediately. I love how he pulled back towards the battery. Phoenix is picking up reinforcements. He was doing a lot of things right. But then suddenly we decided to drop a Templar Archives while your opponent is ultra all in. 1 Colossus there instead of the Templar Archives. And I think it's an easy win.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, I can see he was floating a lot of gas. So he thinks I need to dump this gas some way, somehow, and kind of can't get out of the idea, warps in a bunch of sentries, and then decides on the Templar Archives. But yeah, he could have made 1 Colossus instead, because it's everything that mattered was right there and then. It's no more plan into the late game at that point. But yeah, even at the end there, I think a little bit inconsistent with his own plan. I love the Dark Shrine, but that's kind of your ticket. If you're going for a Dark Shrine, just wait for it and see what you can make do with the DTs. And really, like, the scouting, it can't be an excuse, right? Because you have 1,000,000 sentries. You should be aware of the game state, if nothing else.
Yep. Kind of just missed that little drop. The 7 Marines there ending the game. Otherwise, that game could have played out in all sorts of different ways. I think in a weird way, like, it's one of these moments where the pressure really gets to you and the chaos and the anxiety and the hype, that I think he forgot he had a Robo Bay, even though he just built a Disruptor. Because I think if you would normally ask killers, like, what would you do there with your monies? Like, build a Colossus and you win. Yeah. Like, even if you have no Turbulence. I actually think in a weird way, he forgot that he had a Robo Bay, despite the fact that he had a Disruptor out.
Yeah, I think if you pause the game and give him a little bit of time to think, he certainly assimilates the situation, and there's no way he makes that decision. Yeah, I really just think he saw his gas and was like, oh crap, that's a lot of gas, right? And that's just kind of like your automatic response to a lot of gas might be Templar Archives regardless of the situation. And yeah, I mean, that's gonna come to bite him back. He is the type of player to beat up on himself when he makes this sort of mistake. So yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping for SKillous to kind of close out the series here to bring it back, but I'm happy that we were all correct in a certain sense, as we have a Game 5. This is the closest match so far today.
Yep, and also all kudos to Spirit for just hanging in there, and the fighting spirit really showed, because I think his heart sank when he was busy trying to keep track of something, or he's waiting for the boys to show up. Suddenly these zealots run forward, +1 armor, guardian shield, and the main reason why you pull SCVs is that the SCVs obviously form the wall, and then the Marines just stand behind it. Now all the zealots get on top of it. His heart must have sank, where he's like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening, but he still hang in there. He pulled it together, he microed his heart out, and he turned it into a game, and then eventually secured victory with non-stop drops as well. Sick. I think we're really getting very lucky today, guys. I know yesterday was a cool day, but this has been pretty freaking epic, if you ask me.
Yeah, what's really magical about today is like a few of these kind of like mistakes make for the games to just get really, really, really wild and force the games into this area where players are having to make decisions that we don't really see very often at all. So yeah, that's kind of my favorite type of game, is when we descend into chaos, and it is more of a trademark of the NA portion than the EU one, but we're getting it here, and it's lovely to see.
They're all dragging each other down to the NA level and then beating each other with experience. Like, who's played more games on the NA server now? It's been really fun to watch. This scrappy, hectic, and this is kind of what we hope for, of course, in the playoffs. We play for all the marbles. It's not just a group stage match anymore, which there is money on the line for every single best of 3, and everyone really wants to win. But this is it. Lower bracket, do or die, no more second chances, and they are really living it all on the line. It's just awesome to watch. Really fun.
Yeah, most definitely. And neither player is answering to the ready right now. So it really goes to show, right? Like, they are really occupied in catching their breath and kind of making sure that they are in the best mindset that they can be heading into this final game of the series. The map is going to be Blackburn. I mean, we saw Big Gabe attempt something against Showtime that Showtime, to his own admission, didn't like too much in the 3 racks. And we saw Showtime very comfortably talk about how he feels very good about Stargate openings on this map. Not something that we see SKillous do every game, but certainly something in his toolkit. Do you think we'll see a Stargate opening?
I mean, the Phoenixes obviously served him well on 2K, and I don't think they betrayed him here on Oxide, because I think he pretty much had the game locked up. So there is a good chance, yes, that he goes Phoenix again. Maybe this time it's Oracle into Phoenix, but SKillous is one of these guys that's not a whole lot. Like, Showtime is Mr. Oracle into Phoenix if he plays Phoenix. SKillous is kind of like Goblin and, you know, myself as well, even though I suck compared to these guys. But it's like Phoenix immediately, and is trying to get ahead because they skill so well together. There is a chance, but maybe he does something different. Like, I think with the Twilight, he also got himself in a good spot. It's just one hell of a series, man, between 2 players that are clearly very evenly matched. And I also think it's safe to say excel at different parts of the game. And that is what makes StarCraft 2 still fun to watch after 11 years. In the bottom right side, the Russian, representing Root Gaming, it is SKillous.
And in the bottom left-hand side for Kaisi Gaming, it is Spirit.
If we talk about momentum being a real thing, though, all the momentum has to be on the side of Spirit now, though, right?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I mean, yeah, I think we were talking about earlier. I mean, you're saying momentum being a real thing, but you almost recognized it earlier, Kev, because what has to be on your mind right now bothering you, if you take a win comfortably, you can stop thinking about it. But losses are a little bit more difficult to shake off, right? Like, you have to think about those mistakes. Like, is that potential Colossus instead of a Templar Archive still lingering, for example, in SKillous' mind? And again, that's less processing power that you have to kind of really just put all your focus into this final game. So I do believe in momentum, and I do think it is in Spirit's side.
Yep, obviously being down 0-2, but turning things around. And then let's not forget being in all sorts of trouble, technically, on Oxide, because his attack almost got shut down before it started. And I'm amazed that he hung in there so well, because I don't even feel like SKillous was messing up at first. I really love when he disengaged. I love when he ran back towards his battery. I love when he activated battery overcharge, like all the little things. The Phoenixes were still first picking off tanks, then picking off reinforcements. I honestly thought that SKillous' execution was excellent, and it just really goes to show how well Spirit played to actually turn all of that around, because it wasn't looking too fly at first.
Yeah, and actually the Phoenixes going after the Marines in the when the Zealots first go in, I actually love that too, and then picks off the tanks when the tanks kind of overextend. That was, yeah, I mean, prioritizing from SKillous was absolutely beautiful. He capitalized so early, so well, but yeah, just decision making in terms of like what units and where to spend them. Even the disengage, the first disengage, the second disengage, I thought were good. But yeah, I mean, the Immortal didn't seem to contribute too much, for example, but maybe if the tanks were a bigger target or the Phoenixes didn't deal with them, that would have come in handy. So I don't know, man. It was a bananas game.
Maybe just continuing Phoenix production, even though he was under like all that pressure. But it felt that where it really went into Spirit's favor is when Spirit finally found a little drop in the main, started picking up the pylons and stuff, and found some economic damage. Because then the reinforcements showed up in the third. And that's where suddenly he didn't just find a couple Zealots, he started finding a base and all the probes. My goodness, what a series between these two. Let's talk about this game on Blackburn. As Spirit is once more going for a triple CC build, as SKillous is shying away from the Stargate, and he's actually going for a Twilight Council opening.
Yeah, Blink's a little bit interesting on this map. I don't feel like there's a lot of room for Blink into the main unless you're gonna commit for the very slow zone in the back. So I mean, ramp leading into the natural, kind of an awkward angle as well. So I guess he's just looking to play defensive Blink and take a fast third or something like that. I'm not sure.
Well, if that's the plan, I feel like we could have done that without dropping the Robo, right? Like on the Light Shade, he actually went up to 3 bases really quick. It does still seem like that is going to be his plan, though. Maybe he just wants to make sure that he doesn't die against something super random, like a cloaked Widowmine drop, because that would obviously be a nightmare. Backed up by an armory, of course, because they're always cloaked at first, but then they stay permanently cloaked. I feel like that Nexus could have gone down before the Robo and then go back for the Robo, perhaps. But aggressive Blink, I am not a huge fan of on this map, so I'm glad that he ends up not committing for that. Spirit with a very early missile turret once again, so he really wants to account for, you know, like the unexpected, I suppose, and hard to blame him because he has already triple orbital command situated. Yeah, I almost feel that this missile turret is just in case that SKillous is doing something very wild, like a 5 adept double oracle opening, you know, where they just shade into your mineral line and they get on top of your marines and you're like, oh, come on, really? You're playing with fire like this? That's not even a good build, but it's of course handy as well if it was Phoenixes or if it would be Dark Templars. Sometimes you get lucky and Protoss players are silly like Roddy and they rally their first observer into the turret, but I don't think SKillous is going to do that.
Yeah, both players playing extremely cautious, at least to start things off. Obviously, we expect that SKillous will turn up the pace at some point, but for the time being, even opening with triple observer just to start. And again, like that turret on the side of Spirit also hints towards the fact that no one wants to lose in this final game of the series to any shenanigans.
Nope. And SKillous is as well making an adjustment compared to Lightshade, where on Lightshade he went up to 8 and later on even 10 gateways without a forge. This time he's saying like, all right, I will open up with Blink Stalkers, but I do want to play a slightly longer game. And he even goes up to 4 bases. He's going to take the gold, so it is probably going to be a lot of gateway units for a while. He goes for attack over armor here, which I don't mind. Like if you play Phoenix Zealot, I think armor is better. But I think if you open up Blink Stalkers and you follow it up with Zealots, then I think attack is a perfectly fine choice. Oh, this is going to be a fun one, cats.
It surely is. This bunker is never going to go down. Okay, there we go. Focus firing some SCVs instead. I like that. He's going to get a couple for his troubles, and the mineral line also evacuated just for a second there. Additional gateways now going down on the side of SKillous, and Spirit trying to make use of that early stim.
That observer at this point is key money. It's giving SKillous so much comfort and giving him a lot of information on where the bio units are heading. It is so important for Spirit to find this observer and take it out. Because the moment you take away these eyes of SKillous on this side of the map, the game becomes a lot more uncomfortable. It's so many gateways, by the way, man. He already has 3, so he's just rushing up to 10 gates. Now, Maiden Immortal changed his mind, goes for War Prism instead, and goes for Templar Archives. At this point, I think it's unlikely he goes Storm, because he only has 3 gases up and running. Yeah, I guess Zealot, Archon, Blink, pretty good with a gold.
Yeah, most definitely. And I like that he took this gold as soon as the Observer also spotted this very early third orbital command from Spirit. Spirit's gonna have to catch wind of this Observer just by sheer knowing that SKillous is working around it, right? Like that's the only way, I think, because it is on a high ground, so there's not gonna be any blur that's visible unless there is a unit flying over it. So the only way that you spot it is by your opponent's movement at this point, or just preemptively scanning just to see if there's anything there.
Really annoying, actually. I'm taking a look at SKillous' vision, or Spirit's vision, and it's almost because of that weird tank thingy on the bottom, like that water tank, that it's even harder to spot this observer. Like even when the medevac flew by, it's very hard. There is no missile turret, and Spirit is now unsieging all of his units right when the War Prism is heading towards his main base. He is sending all of his units towards the low ground. The timing could not have been any better here for SKillous.
Yeah, SKillous is, of course, still going to have to hold on the other side of the map, but this is a wonderful start for him. The Zealots will go on top of Marauders, which is the fight that you want, but a tank also spawning will help the chances of Spirit. Spirit does have to siege. SKillous knows that, so he's once again going to pounce on the army. The stim is prompt, but is it going to be enough? A lot of Zealots. The sentries will both pop Guardian Shield, so no force shields available, and Spirit does have a lot of Terran here.
Yeah, but he's got 8 gateways. He's got 14! He's got 14 gateways, cats! Oh my god! How do you pressure Protoss with 14 gateways?
It is going to be extremely difficult as the game progresses. I mean, the one gate or like gating, I suppose I should say, that SKillous has is going to be his economy. Now a mini SCV pool here also from Spirit. So he liked what those SCVs had to offer in the last game. Let's see if they can do well here. This time around, there's a couple of Archons available, at least for the splash.
Yeah, Guardian Shield is very important here. We do have another Guardian Shield. I think SKillous is going to be fine, man. With 14 gateways, the Zealots, the Archons are really going to down on these bio units. That Guardian Shield is putting in overtime. The tank count is getting reduced. Even
great.
the War Prism is showing up to juggle the Archons a little bit. And I think the Russian has done it after one hell of a best of 5. He is going to push Spirit back, and perhaps for the last time, with +2 finishing up in the near future as well. The good old 14 gates, Zealots, Stalkers, and Archons is going to get the job done, cats.
Wonderful job from SKillous there, really exploiting the power of